Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Co-op Podcast, episode 193. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
Hey, what's up, people? Happy Super Bowl day.
Yes, we're also joined by Mr. Jake James Lugo. How's it going, Mr. Lugo?
I'm doing good. Everybody's getting ready to watch the big game. I'm just scoping out for what's going to be on the menu for food. That's all I care about right now.
Oh, yeah. Hey, that sounds good. For those that are curious, definitely pay attention to the commercials because I hear quite a bit of stuff is going to be in some of these commercials related to games. So, fun times ahead. But yeah, it's just us three on the show for today. Max may join us later, depending on, not really sure what his plans were today. But we do have a couple of topics to get into. First and foremost, if you're watching this, you may notice that maybe I look a little different. Well, the camera quality is better, so I have upgraded to a PlayStation 4 quality camera, which means it's 1080p and 30 frames per second. It doesn't run at 60 frames per second, so it's not a PlayStation 4 Pro. It's just a regular PlayStation 4. But quality was better because I have a couple other things coming up, so stay tuned for that. But before we get into the main topics this week, we're going to talk about what we have been playing. So, Mr. Lugo, how about you let us know what you've been playing?
So I've been playing a couple different things. We have new reviews up on the site now, including our review of Tales of Berseria. That took me a little bit to get through because those games are long. As anybody that's played a Tales games knows, those games could be really meaty. So I got through a huge chunk of it, and I felt comfortable at least writing the review. And I felt that the game was pretty good. I actually enjoyed it. I love the music. I love the soundtrack. I love a little bit of different aspects of the story. Some of the characters are pretty interesting and, they're very anime, but they're not necessarily like too cliche here and there. Like they do have their little moments and stuff, but it's still enough to keep you busy for like 30, 40 plus hours. Again, meaty game. Besides that, I also have been playing Double Dragon 4. Now, our review of Double Dragon 4 is probably going to be going up tomorrow, more than likely. I was actually going to try to see if I could post it up before the weekend, but that just wasn't going to happen. There was a lot of stuff that's been happening in a variety of different spots. So that's going to be happening at the beginning of this week. But I've been messing around with it, and I'll talk more about it once that review goes up live on the site. Besides that, though, I actually have been diving into the Ghost Recon Wildlands beta. I actually had the chance to play it the last few days. I'm helping write the guide stuff for it on a couple different places, and I'm enjoying myself. That's the first time I really got hands-on time with Ghost Recon Wildlands. I know that the last couple events that we went to, I think you guys got more time with it than I did. So this is the first time I'm really just getting my first impressions of it, but it's a very big beta or a very big quote-unquote demo for the game, for a game that's out in, I believe it's March 4th or March 7th, I think it's coming out. But the area that you have to explore, and again, all the features of multiplayer and other stuff that are included in the closed beta is pretty damn big. And for what it is right now, granted, there's a couple technical hiccups here and there, it's still very interesting. And I enjoyed what I had the chance to actually play through and whatnot. But that's what I've really been playing for most of the week.
Sounds good. I've actually heard a lot of great things about the Ghost Wildlands beta. So, I need to look into a couple more videos and see what that's all about. I'm not really sure yet if it's a game that I don't like the way it's positioned when it comes out because it's coming out in between, Horizon Zero Dawn and Mass Effect. So, but, we'll see. I may check it out, but looking forward to hearing more about the game in the future as you spend more time with the beta. But yeah, sounds good. So now we're joined by Mr. Max Muller. How's it going, Max?
It's going pretty good.
That's good. Glad to have you on the show. So how about you let us know what you've been playing?
Let's see. This week I played the usual Rocket League and Halo 5. I got an hour into Oxenfree, actually, which I'm really enjoying, and I'm probably going to play through more of that tonight. I didn't know that there was, no combat, at least so far. I didn't know that it was just purely story-based and kind of, exploring and, talking to the different characters and such, but maybe combat comes in later on. I don't know. I like being in the dark with these kinds of games. And then I beat Metro 2033 Redux, which was I don't really like how the game ended, but I know that there's a sequel, so maybe that will remedy some of it. But I don't want to spoil it, of course, or anything like that. But that's pretty much it for this week. Not a whole lot.
Hey, sounds awesome. Yeah, glad to hear that you've played some of Oxenfree. So you know, you'll definitely be finished with. You know, I'm not trying to knock the developers, but you'll be done with that game tonight if you decide to play it. It's not that long.
Yeah.
But it's a great game. Great game.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I heard nothing but great things about it.
Awesome. So Gary, how about you? What have you been playing?
Well, if Max thought he didn't play much, I really didn't play shit because you know, I was really pressed for time this week, so I only had time for Overwatch, unfortunately. But I will try to improve that this week coming up and play some more things because there's a few things I really have to get into so that I can cover them and everything else. So I will be making time for things this week.
Sounds good. As for me, I've been playing, you know, a few of the, you know, I did play some more Resident Evil 7, still very much enjoy that game. I know a lot of people say that that's a game that you have to play in VR because it makes the experience much more immersive. Maybe one day I will have that experience, but for now, I see no reason to pick up a PlayStation VR because I don't really see too many games I would want to play on that device for now. But that could change as, you know, the year goes on. We'll see about that. I've also been playing a game that I'm not really going to say much about it quite yet because there is an embargo, but I have been playing Sniper Elite 4. Man, a really fun game. That's all I'm going to say for right now. I have a review for that game, which actually will be coming out February 13th, so the day before Valentine's Day. So, you know, for those of you that you're not planning on spending Valentine's Day with somebody special, there's a lot of games coming out that day that could keep you busy. You know, that'll be out For Honor, and I believe there may be maybe one or two other games coming out. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have been playing for now. I'll definitely say more about it next week because by then, you know, we'll be closer to the embargo. I have more that I could say, but so far, that's pretty much all I've been playing. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into the topics. As Gary already said, you know, this is Super Bowl Sunday, so we probably will not be have too many topics to talk about this week because, you know, everyone's focus is on towards other stuff that's going on outside. There's a lot of distractions, you know, all around the place. I am in a position where the team, the Atlanta Falcons, you know, I live in Atlanta, but I'm from Boston. So now I have both teams that are in that matchup, and I have to see that later on today. But yeah, it's a little bit of distractions. But let's talk about the news, shall we? First and foremost, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch. Earlier this week, there was some news that came out in which a couple of the executives over at Nintendo, including Miyamoto, said that they would consider adding VR support to the Nintendo Switch. Depending on pretty much, they have to see whether or not the technology takes off and whether or not they can solve the problem of it being, you know, something that is actually popular and working for their device. They did say that when they made the device, they tried to you know, do a little bit of forward thinking in terms of different things that they can do with the device. But as for the VR support, you know, we'll have to see if that actually pans up. But I wanted to ask you guys' opinion. Do you think that it would be smart for Nintendo to add VR support? And do you think that at any point you guys would actually consider getting the device now because they are considering adding VR support? So, Gary, how about you go first and give me your thoughts on the topic?
I do think it might be a good idea for them because especially if they can make it affordable as well. And as we know, like the Switch is an on-the-go device. So if you could bring that VR experience with you on the go as well, that would kind of be pretty cool as well, I think. I know that their concerns are mostly for, you know, the comfort. They want it to be comfortable and everything. And I like that they're thinking that way because that is important, I think, because a lot of people won't use VR very often if it's an uncomfortable experience, I think, because that's something that the PSVR kind of suffers from with some games, because you know, you're fairly restricted in you know, in how you have to sit and play the game and stuff like that. So if they can find that balance, then I think it could be really good for them, and if it's affordable as well. But who knows?
Yeah. One thing I want to add real quick before I get you know, JJ and Max's opinions. I did notice that one in particular quote that they made was that they said that they want to make sure that they're actually making quality software for VR as well. So in other words, not something like a little short demo, like, I mean, a game that makes full use of the feature. And, you know, that is the one thing that I have to say about PlayStation VR that I have noticed is that some of the games that they had at launch, I mean, it's not really like a full-fledged game where it like lasts hours and hours and hours. I mean, it's little short games, some demos here or there. Resident Evil is really one of the first games you can play completely in PlayStation VR. That's why it's, you know, getting a lot more attention. But I do think that it is great to make titles specifically for that particular device if you are going to have VR. But yeah, you know, comfort is important. I mean, I haven't had any issues with the PlayStation VR in terms of comfort yet, but I also haven't played that many games yet to really understand how every game works differently. But I just wanted to throw that in there. So, Max, how about you give us your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that it would work out for them if they would have to create like their own like kind of Nintendo style game for the VR. You know what I mean? Like I don't think they would be able to just get by on third-party experiences being VR and like little small games being VR. And I don't even think they'd be able to get like, for example, get by with just Mario Kart like 8 on VR. Like that would be cool to have like their current games like have VR support with them to play them in it. But I think they would need to create like a unique, like full-fledged VR experience. And I feel like Nintendo would do something like that in the first place. Like, for example, Super Mario Odyssey would be a really, really cool game in VR probably, but it would still just be the same game just in your face. You know what I mean? They could still use their properties like Mario and Zelda and everything, but they would have to just go full-fledged and do their very, very own thing. Like maybe even like a Metroid style game could work with VR or something like that. But I don't know if they're going to follow through with this. I think, yeah, they're trying to solve the comfort issue, but I think they're also just trying to see if VR is going to become as big as we want it to be. Because the Switch, people are already questioning the Switch. They don't need to throw something else in there that people still aren't sure on it in itself. You know what I mean?
Yep, totally understand that. Go ahead, Mr. Lugo.
Here's the thing, and here's how I feel about it. And without getting like super in depth, I feel like they're getting ahead of themselves. It's something similar that I noticed with another company recently on an article that I was reading about. It was actually Square Enix talking about the City of Final Fantasy, the arcade game that's in Japanese arcades right now, and it's still not here or worldwide on PlayStation 4 consoles, where they're in that case, they were talking about the game becoming an esport or getting involved with esports, yet the game isn't on consoles right now worldwide. It's like, I think the first thing you should do is finish what's on your plate first before you get into anything else. And that's how I feel about this. Granted, VR right now is still in its infantile stages, and we're going to talk about VR a little bit more later, like in a much more grander scheme. But as in relation to the Nintendo Switch, like Max and everybody else has alluded to, everybody's still on the fence about the console. A lot of people still don't understand a lot of the logic and the reasoning and the approach that Nintendo is going about with the Nintendo Switch. So I think before they start discussing even anything involving other technology, VR or other aspects and other applications for the Nintendo Switch, they still need to figure out what this console is, what is the philosophy behind it, and what exactly is going to get people buying this console when it comes out next month. The fact that we don't know enough about the Nintendo Switch outside of like what people have like actually played with the console at a couple different events, or people that have had limited amount of time with it, playing only a select number of games, that's a problem. And I don't think that they should be getting into these types of conversations now without first addressing everything else involving the Nintendo Switch itself.
Yeah, I do agree that they need a solid foundation before they introduce VR, because like we need to know that there's a steady stream of software incoming, and at the moment they're known for spacing out a lot of their releases, so you don't want to have to buy like an extra device for the system, and then like there's not even many games to support it, and you have to wait for the games to come out and stuff. So yeah, they definitely need to just kind of see what happens with the Switch launch, and I guess evaluate this entire year once the system is out, and then once the Mario game is out and everything this fall, and then just kind of decide from there what they want to do in terms of VR. And they also need to watch the VR market itself, because I mean that's not solid at the moment either. So they need to be wary of the actual VR market and what's going on with it.
I think also this goes beyond just software, though. I think that software is a very important aspect about it, like what is with every console launch or every console that has ever been. But this is more, the way I'm looking at it is much more of, again, just looking at the hardware itself. Before you even get into any games, you talk about release schedules or anything like that. What is like the real pitch of the Nintendo Switch? And I feel like, and a couple other places have really alluded to this in some of their writings and videos that they posted up, where a lot of the original messaging about the Nintendo Switch seems to be lost ever since we just got the last presentation that Nintendo had, where it was in Japan, and then they had the different places both in Europe and in New York City. I feel like a lot of that is just gone. The initial pitch when we saw that first trailer, where it was a blending of both the home console gaming experience and the portable gaming experience becoming one and becoming synonymous, that's no longer applies almost at this case, or at least based on what we've seen thus far. So again, I think that, beforehand, we only got like a couple of weeks left before this console drops. I feel like they need to reinforce that before they get into any of this other talk. I don't think they should be talking about VR. The smarter thing, at least in my opinion, would have been like, we're interested in VR, but we're not talking about that right now. I feel like that would have been the much more smarter response.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with everything that you had to say. I agree with everything that you guys said about the device itself, about Nintendo getting ahead of themselves, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions we still have about the Switch. I would like to know how much this online service is going to cost, even though I did see they mentioned that in Japan what the cost is, but
they're saying $24.99 right now. That's the actual conversion from that price that was set in Japan. They're saying it's about $24 to $29.99 here in the United States. But again, that's still not confirmed, like specifically, and it's still up in the air what exactly you're getting with it. Keep in mind the only thing.
Oh, good.
No, I was going to say, like, the only thing that they haven't really also confirmed yet is what exactly comes with that online service, besides the ability to communicate with other players through your actual device, your smart device, not the Switch itself, but like through your like external mobile device.
Is that price a yearly fee or monthly?
Yeah, it's yearly.
It's yearly, apparently. But again, like there's still stuff that hasn't really been explained yet about the actual service. For all we know, there could be some other stuff that has yet to come out, like a couple weeks prior to the Switch, and it might be like, oh, it might be cheaper than Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus, but it could be like something detriment that we could have. Again, it's all speculation now at this point until finally Nintendo opens up a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it could be cheaper, but that doesn't mean we're getting as much. And like, who knows if their network's even good? Like, you go online and try to play Smash 4 or something on the Wii U, and it lags constantly. So
it's non-existent. Yeah. It's non-existent. It's really bad compared to what else is on the market. But I've talked already at length about the online service with there. It's just that they have a lot to prove in that regard.
Yep.
Well, I'll end off by saying that, we will have an opportunity to get hands-on with this device very soon, because it will be at PAX East. So we'll be able to talk a lot more critically, about how it actually is when we actually play it. But I guess we'll just have to see how things pan out for Nintendo, for the Switch, for VR. Have any of you guys decided, well, you know what? On second thought, I think I am going to pick up a Switch on day one. Or are you still saying, hell nah, they need to show me more before I actually pick up this device?
It's up in the air for me right now. Like, I'm still on the fence, or I'm still more along the side or leaning towards no for the reasons I've stated in the past. But, not only the obligation to have stuff done for us, and to get content out and, impressions out about it for our audience and for everybody watching this podcast and stuff. That might change at some point. But if I was, again, minusing all of that, I would still say no.
Yep, I'm about the same there. Probably not. There isn't much they can do that would convince me to want to get it day one. Looks cool, but like I can wait till fall or winter if I even get it by then.
Yeah, I'm definitely not getting it launch day, but I'm still intrigued by the system, and I want them to succeed, to be honest. Like, I want them to do well. I want them to put out good software that will entice me to buy the system, but I'm just gonna play it by ear and see what happens, and I'll give them a year before I decide whether I'm really gonna get the system or not.
Hey, very fair. And honestly, I think a lot of people may wait until the holidays because that's when the Mario game is coming out. So we'll see though. To be determined. So any final thoughts before we move on to the next topic?
No, I'm good.
Okay, well, let's stay on the topic of VR. I understand that there was a big development this week between Zenimax and Oculus. Mr. Lugo, how about you shed some light on this particular topic for us?
Yeah, sure. Now, bear with us, everybody watching the show now, because this is very complicated. I'm going to try my best to streamline what's been going down with this case involving Oculus, Zenimax, and the Oculus VR, because there's a lot of different aspects to it. It's very complicated, and there's a lot of different layers to what's happening. And it also is going to have a lot of ramifications with for the VR market going forward, okay, especially now that there's been some changes of what's going on. But basically, where this all started was that, was it originally... I believe it was Zenimax had alleged, or at least had sued Oculus VR because they felt that they not only kind of, stole some of the actual ideas and some of the technology that, they claimed that they originally developed for the Oculus VR itself, the different tech that goes into the actual unit. Now, this was a case that's been lurking around in the court system for quite some time. Like we heard about this all the way back, I believe it was like the beginning of this year or even before then. It's been a while since we've first heard about this, since they actually went to court. A lot of it is alleging that Palmer Luckey actually stole trade secrets and did all these other different types of stuff. But here's what happened. And again, I'm going to paraphrase this from an actual article that was posted up on Polygon, which I felt like really sums it up best. Basically, the jury in the court had awarded Zenimax $500 million. That's $500 million that Oculus and Palmer Luckey and a few other individuals are going to have to pay the company. And the reason being is not because they ruled that Palmer Luckey had stole trade secrets or had did anything like that. It was because Palmer Luckey, they found there was enough evidence to show and prove that he actually violated an NDA. Now, we know about NDAs here on the Koalition. We know that you're not supposed to break up, but this is like the worst, extremist scenario of like what happens when you break an NDA. Like you get sued up the wazoo. And this is like, a pretty steep bill that people are going to have to pay. According to the ruling, right? Okay. The jury had ruled that they were awarding Zenimax $500 million. They said that Oculus did not misappropriate trade secrets as contended by Zenimax itself. They had about, out of the $500 million, which is the final total for the ruling, Oculus has to pay $200 million for breaking an NDA and $50 million for copyright infringement. Both Oculus and Luckey, or Palmer Luckey himself, each have to pay $50 million for false designation. And the former CEO of Oculus, which his name is Brendan Iribe, I hope I pronounced that right. Brendan Iribe has to pay $150 million for the same thing. So that's how the entire ruling breaks down. This is a lot of money, by all extensive purposes. But also, this has some ramifications for what's going to be going down moving forward for the VR market. A lot of what's going to go down with VR is not going to involve video games. It's going to be in other applications. It's going to be, that technology is going to go into other areas that us as an industry, as the gaming industry, don't really comprehend right now, or we don't see the application and the practice of it now at this point in time. We'll probably understand it a little bit better in a couple years. Like one of the couple of the different things that you probably see floating around, especially for people that have PlayStation VR or have an HTC Vive, are people watching concerts in VR. Imagine a moon landing or some sort of space mission from NASA, watching that go down, watching, maybe the presidential, State of the Union address, or watching someone like the Pope in another country, but viewing that in VR or other medical applications. There's a million different things where VR is going to be something that's going to be outside of video games. In rulings like this, the ones that are really kind of like starting up on the ground floor, that are developing devices, that are really kind of honing and really understanding the technology that itself in its infantile stage, are going to be the ones on the ground floor for when the actual industry starts to pick up and they start making real money. Granted, $500 million or the couple billion dollars that Zenimax was trying to sue Oculus for is a ridiculous amount of money in of itself, but this is also going to lead into much more bigger scores. This is going to lead into a whole bigger industry down the line. We won't see this for maybe the next 5 to maybe 10 years, give or take, because I know that technology evolves very fast, but this is a big deal for the time being. But that's really the breakdown of what's been going on and the ruling that the actual court ruled in favor of Zenimax. But this isn't the end of it. We're fully expecting that Oculus is going to repeal it. I'm pretty sure, because they're not going to want to pay $500 million, or at least any chunk of that money right there. And I'm pretty sure Zenimax at some point is also going to want to find the full verdict in their favor. But this is going to keep going, I think, for quite some time. But let me get some of your guys' thoughts on the whole matter.
Excellent explanation. Who wants to go first? Max, you had something you was going to say?
Yeah, I can pretty much say I wasn't following the case too closely, so JJ pretty much summed up everything that was going on, obviously, and pretty much anything I know about it, I just learned a lot from him. But I just know, to add on to that, at the end of the day, Facebook, since the start, like Mark Zuckerberg, which owns Oculus, has been kind of shady. And they've always like kind of done kind of shady things. Like even the start of Facebook, Zuckerberg like kind of screwed people over and everything, including his friends. And I feel like they can afford the best lawyers out there. So I feel like they are kind of getting away with more than what they did. Like, I think that they did more than they're getting called out for, because they have the best lawyers and they could just kind of get away with anything they want because they're Facebook, and Zuckerberg is going to do that. And I think that JJ is right that they're going to try and repeal because they don't want to pay that $500 million. But I don't have too much on the topic because I wasn't completely aware of what was going on. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too many thoughts on this myself, but I've kind of caught glimpses of what was going on and stuff, and we actually have a friend who was actually going to the the courtroom to as this case was going on and stuff. So shouts to him. But yeah, I don't have too much of an opinion myself, but I feel like this sort of thing happens often in specifically in tech companies and stuff like that, because people are always changing companies and stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if people bring files or information or whatever with them and then start to work on projects within the new company, using notes or whatever from the old company. So I think this is something that can happen very often, but maybe it's a case where not a lot of companies feel the need to going to trial to get money back or whatever, or maybe they settle outside of court. Usually, I don't know what the usual process is, but I feel like this thing happens all the time in tech. And like Max explained, that shady things like this happen with Facebook and stuff. So I feel like it's fairly common. And whether they should reappeal, I mean, to be honest, they should probably just, I mean, 500 million, it seems like a lot to us, but to Facebook, it's really not that much, I think. But so they should probably just like pay it and then just move on, because like if they drag it out more, then it's probably going to cost a lot more legal fees on both sides and stuff. So they should probably just like end it where it is at the moment, I think, and move on.
It's not going to happen though. And let me add on to that, because Facebook, even though they bought a significant amount of, I guess, either shares or bought a significant amount of influence for Oculus as a company like that, they're not going to be the ones that have to pay this out. It actually has to be Oculus themselves, which obviously Oculus is going to go to where they need to go to get the finances and the resources to pay off a steep bill like that, no matter what they have to pay and such. That's why they're going to repeal it. Like, there's not even a question about it. They're going to go and try to repeal this entire case and hopefully get the ruling changed.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess we'll just have to see. I mean, I don't have much to say. I'm no expert when it comes to stuff like this. It's certainly interesting though, because I mean, Oculus Rift, I remember that being a big deal. So for them to kind of claim that, you know, and just the fact that Zenimax was actually working on something like that, you know, it's interesting to know.
Yeah, I am going to echo the thoughts of both Max and Gary. I haven't been following, you know, all of this stuff that's been going on between Zenimax and Oculus. I will say though that I'll be very interested to see what happens with this money that they have now been awarded. If perhaps we're going to get more titles in the future, not necessarily VR supported titles, but I just mean more games in general. Obviously, you know, Bethesda, you know, there's quite a bit of games that they have announced at E3 in the past. I know that they teased a couple of games at the last conference we was at. So I'll be curious to know and see what this money does long term. I think Elder Scrolls, I think we already know there will be another Elder Scrolls game. So, you know, some money may go into the development of some of these other titles. And then in that case, I have no complaint if the games are actually going to be good and, you know, worth checking out. But as for all the legal proceedings and, you know, I'm not really sure about any of that stuff. Yeah, it is very much like what happened with Facebook for anyone that has seen the Social Network movie. Yeah, I feel like, hey, I'm glad that they got all that money, that 500 million. If only I can get a piece of that, just send me 1 million. I'll be good. But yeah, I don't have any other thoughts outside of that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's been companies that have stolen from the Coalition, so you know, maybe we should open some cases. I don't know
who those companies are. You talking about the Coalition that made Gears of War? Yeah, they got a similar name to us, but you know,
let's go after them.
They sound very suspect. So I'm saying, all jokes. We love the Coalition.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Awesome studio. Yep, awesome studio. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with the rest of the Gears series from here on out. But yeah, no. Thank you for giving us that overview, Mr. Lugo. You guys have any other thoughts on this topic before we move on?
Not really.
No thoughts from me, but interested to see what the people think.
Okay, so now we're going to jump into this next topic. I'm going to need more explanation of this topic because I haven't really researched it to the extent that some of you other guys possibly have. But what is going on with GameStop? Because, you know, I know that they've done a lot of stuff in the past, but this current situation about the new games, please do elaborate more on this.
I think I could give a good idea, and I also have some personal experience with GameStop, like actually working with them. I mean, if you allow me to take the mic again.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, what's going on with GameStop is that there's this program called the Circle of Life, and what it is, it's a business model that GameStop has that allows them to not only but like to push a lot of their focus on the used games market to the forefront ahead of actually of, you know, having their customers buy new games and such. That's really the grand kind of like, you know, overview of it. But there's a lot of other different things that come along with it. Part of it has to do with getting people to sign up for the Power Up Rewards program, for any of the credit card stuff that they had for quite some time. If you remember that, they were advertisements that GameStop has like a credit card program that you could sign up for, and it gives you a certain amount of credit. It was a bad idea because it really hurts your credit score, and there's a lot of other nuanced stuff to it, but that was a thing as well. But really, it's the bigger focus on it is used games and used consoles over newer games and newer consoles that are sold on the market. The problem with it, and why it's getting so much spotlight now, it's actually based off of an editorial that was written by Jason Schreier over at Kotaku. He did 2 editorials. One was the original source that everybody went to when the editorial went live. And then the second was a follow-up where he actually got more people to talk to him about this stuff. He actually went out and actually talked to a variety of different individuals that worked for GameStop in a bunch of different sectors, not only just in the staff like portion of it, you know, the people that you see in the stores, those attendants, those advisors and such, but also some of the senior management, people that also work on the business end of things. Like he talked to a variety of different people and had a variety of anonymous sources and stuff. And when it finally started getting traction, more people started coming forward and talking about it, talking about their experience and why they feel that GameStop's practice, or at least their business model with the Circle of Life, is really kind of disingenuous to their customers. Because at the core of it, they're almost lying to their customers. That's what really everybody's kind of latching onto. But the reason why they're doing so is because in some of the examples in that original editorial that Jason put up was that they would have like a couple copies of a new game. Like they'll have like a couple copies in stock. And his example was Yakuza 0, because that game came out not too long ago. If that game has any sort of copies in stock, and especially if there's only a certain amount of them, and they need to reach their quota for how many used games they're supposed to be selling and the rest of their other goals that they have for their business, or at least in that particular store, what they're supposed to do, according to the Circle of Life program, is to tell the customer that they don't have any new copies in stock, and to suggest to them and to push that customer to buying used versions of that game. So not only does GameStop make more money in the process selling the used game, but they also are able to reach their goals for that individual store. The way that they broke it down, or that Jason broke it down, was that I think is that they have to reach like 75% of their total goals for that particular store per employee and such. That includes power-up rewards cards, used game sales, used console sales, and all this other stuff, in order to not only get basically get props from the upper management and stuff. But if for whatever reason that they were going below their goals, or they didn't reach that quota for whatever specific aspect, they would be in danger of losing their jobs. They would be in danger of getting fired. And that's what really sparked a lot of concern for a lot of people and a lot of outcry against GameStop. Now, in his follow-up editorial, Jason actually got a statement from GameStop that basically, really didn't address the issue. It was really a PR answer. Again, if you want the full statement, go to Kotaku's article that they had. There's 2 of them there that they had updated the actual postings with it, that has everything that you need to know. And it goes into a lot more detail about what goes down with the Circle of Life program. But that's basically what has everybody up in arms.
Thank you for the explanation. Let me just make the statement. I'm rather disappointed that it is called the Circle of Life, because I immediately thought of the Lion King. So I thought it was going to be some type of positive thing with GameStop, but we already know it's hardly anything positive with GameStop. What do you guys think about this? Max, how about you go first? I mean, I know you've been to GameStop several times, right? So tell us what you think about this.
It just kind of exemplifies a lot of the acts that I've seen at GameStop when I would go there. Like, for example, when I was younger, and my mom, when she would take me in, because I couldn't buy M games and all that stuff, unless you had an adult with you, she would always complain about how much they tried talking to her and are always trying to sell her things and everything like that. And I just never really paid attention to it because I was much younger. And then when I started going there myself, when I was older, I noticed it too. And it's easy to get annoyed at it, but it's the fact that these people's jobs are threatened and they have to do this is kind of screwed up. The fact that GameStop was forcing their employees to do this it's inhumane almost, in my opinion. It's risking their jobs to just force everyone to just buy this. What JJ was saying about the used game thing, I guess it's smart from the company's perspective, because their goal is to make more money, but there are other ways to do that than just ripping the customer off in that way and developers off. And I don't know, it's just GameStop has always been seen as kind of shady though, so I guess it shouldn't be completely surprising that just more of that has come to life.
Yeah, agreed. Now, Gary, I know that you don't have a GameStop, but you do have a company called Game in the UK, which in my opinion is just as similar like GameStop. So what are your thoughts on this particular practice?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have GameStop over here, and Game is our equivalent. Every time I hear about GameStop, it's usually something bad. But as for Game, I mean, yeah, I used to go there religiously. They used to be okay where I am. But yeah, over the years, it's I mean, with the rise of buying online and everything, it's everything at Game is just really overpriced now. So I never shop there anymore, and they do the same sort of practices with their used games, because I guess that's where they're going to get the most profit margin, and they can control that market, because they cut out the people they have to actually purchase the games from. And I feel like I'm actually surprised this thing still happens, because I mean, if you want to sell your games, you can get more for them online anyway, like, you know, by selling them on eBay or Amazon or what have you. So I'm surprised that this is still a big market that they can exploit. And, you know, when things like this happen, it's just it's never good for the consumer. And just the fact that you know they've started lying to people and then threatening people's jobs, like, that's just terrible. And I feel like that somewhere, like, we need to draw the line in terms of, like, I wish they had competition as well. Like, I wish there was more retail competition. I know online is kind of dictating a lot of things now, and you know, that's online is kind of the future now. It's like where it's at. But I just wish there was more competition on the retail side of things, because they wouldn't be able to pull things like this. But because, you know, GameStop is like the go-to brand for, I guess, buying games in America or whatever, in terms of being a retail store. I know you have Best Buy and stuff, but they're not 100%, you know, about games and stuff. Yeah, I just feel like there needs to be more control and more competition on the market. Then, you know, GameStop won't be able to pull shit like this, I think. And in terms of over here, like, I don't even go to stores to buy games anymore anyway, so, you know, I don't have much of an opinion on that anymore, because I haven't stepped foot in one of those shops in like years now. So yeah, not much to add to the conversation, unfortunately.
That's okay. Mr. Lugo, you said you had something else you wanted to say.
Yeah, I could give a little bit more context to a lot of this stuff, because, again, like I mentioned earlier, I have worked at GameStop for a very brief time. I worked at there for 1 day, to be exact. And there's a whole story, but to paraphrase what had happened is that I not only was very dissatisfied with the way that they handled things, especially going about daily activities and the way that they, you know, conducted themselves in their business and stuff. It just did not click with me. And then after that day, after I finished the shift, I was like, you know what, I'm out. Like, the next day I came and I was like, okay, I don't want no part of this anymore. It's just like they ran the store very archaic. And it's not to speak towards every GameStop that's out there. I'm pretty sure, like, you know, again, there's a lot of stores that are around and they're all run differently. But from what I saw in my personal experience, it wasn't really that great. The other thing we got to understand too, and we should acknowledge for the sake of context sake, is that this is just GameStop just going about their business because that's what's going to get them profits. You know, especially pushing the used game market in the way that they do, because that's what their crutch is. That's what they need to survive. And a lot of people, other people besides myself in various different podcasts and editorials, have commented many, many times over that they are pretty much very close to being on their last legs. All it takes is a couple things to line up right, and GameStop is done. The only reason why I say that is not because I want to see them go out of business, because when a big chain like that goes out of business, a lot of people lose their jobs, and it's a very bad thing. But the reason why is because a lot of it has to do with the way that the industry, the games industry itself, is changing. A lot of people are really pushing, especially if you're involved with the game development and you're a game publisher, you want to push towards digital sales, because those are sales from consumers that are going directly to you. GameStop is the middleman. GameStop is the person where you need them now in order to get consoles in people's houses, as well as also get tangible, you know, actual boxes for games on their store shelves, but you're still losing money in that regard. With digital sales and stuff, that a lot of people, again, myself included for some time, was really against digital sales, because we like to have games that are tangible just to show on our collection and stuff. But once you remove that from the equation and you kind of don't care about that anymore, and you start looking at like what's cheaper, what's a cheaper alternative, or what can make for a cheaper alternative in the future, going digital is a little bit better. And GameStop knows that. Okay, the only reason why GameStop exists right now still in its current form, and why they're doing things like this, is because the used game market is really their only crutch to stand on, and because they're still that entity that people know because of convenience. When you talk about going out to buying games, right, more than half the time, if not 75% of the time, when you ask someone where they're going to go buy a video game, they're either going to GameStop or they're going to one of the big outlets like Walmart, Best Buy, or Target, or Toys R Us. Somewhere convenient that they know is right on the second where they're going to go to and immediately find the game that they're looking for. GameStop being like the McDonald's of our industry for the most part. The thing is also, again, it really sucks to hear about employees lying to customers. And you know, that goes with a lot of different businesses. I'm not like going along with it. I don't agree with it. I think it's very disingenuous and it's not cool for the customers that are going in there, because that's not how you build customer trust, especially if it gets out like that. But also keep in mind another thing, right? Okay. It's really the fact that GameStop higher up management put so much emphasis on this that it really costs people their jobs. Because even in that editorial that Jason put out there on Kotaku, he talked to a bunch of different individuals that lost their job because of this, because they didn't want to hassle customers for signing up for the pro rewards, sign up for the credit card that GameStop has, because they didn't want to recommend them a bad deal when they could have paid less money for a newer copy of a particular game. There's instances like that, and I've run into stuff like that as a consumer going into a GameStop to buy stuff that I've almost paid more for a game that was used rather than for a brand new copy. And then that's not even introducing or getting into the whole ordeal that was a big deal a while back, like maybe about a year or so ago, where GameStop openly admitted to having copies of games that they open up, like the wrapping and stuff, and still selling them for the higher price point, even though they're used games and they're supposed to go down in value like that. Again, it gets very complicated. It gets all over the place because, you know, you lose focus on all the different things that are wrong or a big deal with GameStop. But that's just, again, some context for the whole matter. I still think this kind of sucks. I still think it's terrible in a bunch of different ways, but that's just me, though.
Yeah, I agree that it's a horrible practice. I'd never like to hear about anybody losing a job, especially over this type of stuff. But I do know, as far as GameStop is concerned, you know, I know that they are trying to do different things to remain profitable because they are always in trouble of competition. I honestly can tell you, I don't really understand why GameStop is still around. As far as the gaming stuff, I know they have other companies they have aligned themselves with. They started selling other types of merchandise at the stores. But just whenever a new game comes out now, I mean, you have the Amazon Prime memberships that people can sign up for and get a 20% discount on new games. Pretty much, you know, that also extends to other games that may already be on sale. And then you have the Best Buy Gamers Unlock Club, which, of course, is not as good as it used to be anymore because they don't necessarily have the $10 gift certificate that you can get now with certain games. I mean, they do that periodically throughout the year, but it's not as good as it used to be. But what I just don't understand is why people are still saying, well, let me go ahead and spend $60 at GameStop for a game instead of going on Amazon or Best Buy, signing up for that program. I understand you have to pay to sign up for these programs, but that 20% discount is on any game for a whole year, you know, multiple games at any time. So I don't understand why people are not really doing that. I guess it's because, you know, they know GameStop, they understand the name, they understand that's probably the place they need to go to instead of just for just buying games. So they decide, let me just go there and call it a day. But yeah, I just don't like the practice that you know, hearing about all this stuff about what's been going on. You know, I am glad that people spoke up about this stuff, because I feel as though the consumers need to know what the hell is going on at these stores. So, you know, I'm glad that some people were not afraid to speak up about some of this stuff going on, but it's just ridiculous in general that it is going on in the first place.
Yeah, just to share some insight on what happened with Game over here. So like, you know, Game were like, there used to be Game and Game Station. They were practically the same company. And, you know, for a long time, for years, you know, that was the go-to source to get games and stuff. And then, you know, with the rise of buying online, we actually had this online store that was popular in the UK called Shop2. And they offered free shipping on like all games pretty much. And if you pre-ordered, you would pretty much get the game the day it comes out or the day before. Like people were getting it the day before and stuff. So a lot of people started buying from there. And of course, there was still Amazon at the time as well. This is around like 2010, 2011, 2012, those sort of years. And, you know, but a lot of people were buying from Shop2 just because, you know, most of the time you were getting the game the day before release and stuff like that. And the prices were much better than Game. And eventually game went into administration because so many people just started buying their games online. And then a few years ago, they were actually purchased out of administration by an investment company. And since then, I haven't heard much complaint about game besides the fact that the games are really high priced compared to online games and stuff. But I feel like this is something that needs to happen with GameStop for things to improve. I feel like they need to get brought out by some, you know, huge corporation or investment company or what have you, so that things can then possibly change. I really think that's the solution to these problems that keep happening with GameStop.
That's a good point. Man, yeah, we'll see what happens. Just again, there's a lot of stuff that does happen. I know we have quite a bit of people that have been with the site that have worked with GameStop. They've all had horror stories. So, I feel there's a lot of things that need to be fixed at GameStop. Not just that, but we'll see what comes from this. So I'm pretty sure, as I say, if this news was out there, I know it was on Kotaku. I know it was on a couple of sites. I don't know if GameStop is going to have a lot of backlash from any of this. But I just hope that people will take the time to educate themselves on these companies. If you know some stuff is going on that is kind of shady, well, you should second guess, actually buying from the store, supporting the store if you know stuff is going on. But again, that falls on the jobs of the consumers to really do their research before they buy stuff. But yeah, it's unfortunate that this stuff is happening, but I guess it is what it is. That's how they do business. So yeah, that's what it is. Any final thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next one?
No, I'm good.
Okay, we're going to talk about Gary's favorite topic now. For those that aren't aware, there is a new update now. I don't know if it's available for all PlayStation 4s yet, because I haven't turned on my PS4 yet today. But the latest firmware update for PlayStation 4, 4.50 to be exact, it added two things. Well, for the regular PlayStation 4 people, they'll love this. It now the PlayStation 4 has external hard drive support, which I think is long overdue for them to have that. Yeah, a good feature. But then for those that have a PlayStation 4 Pro, they also have a boost mode support. And all that essentially does is that it would take older games that were on PlayStation 4 that it may not have been quite as clear what type of support they have. Maybe it's not quite optimized the way that it should be to run perfectly on the system. Basically, it improves those older games, allowing them to reach their full potential, maximum capacity, whether it's the graphics or frame rate, so on and so forth. But it does improve certain games in certain ways. I know there were a couple of videos that came out in which they showed a couple of different games. Evil Within was one of those games, and how much it was improved with the boost mode feature. So before we get into boost mode, I want to ask you guys, though, about the external hard drive support. I know we all have, with the exception of Max, we all have a PlayStation 4. We all know that the system, when it first came out, we only got a 500 gigabyte hard drive. So I wanted to ask you guys first, JJ and Gary, are you happy that they have finally added external hard drive support? And is this a feature that you will use now that it is available?
Yeah, for sure. Because that's something that always bothered me, the fact that you didn't really get much options with the capacity and stuff. And we know these games are getting bigger and bigger. And, if I am going to buy a new hard drive to replace it with, I would rather buy one for my PC than for the PS4. So, yeah, I'm glad that support is there now, because I have a number of external hard drives that I can use. So that's great that they added that feature.
Here's the thing. I mean, I'm indifferent about it because I never really changed the hard drives on any of my other consoles, because I think also the Xbox One has that, right? And I never really did that. I never have found a need to do that with any of my consoles. So it is cool that the option's there, especially if you want more space. Like if you just don't want to delete stuff on your hard drive, that's already there. But I already get into the habit of doing that for games that I'm never going to play again, or games that either I felt like I played enough and that I just don't want anymore, like on my console, or at least taking up space like that. So, I mean, for the person that just wants to hoard all those games, I think it's fine. It's cool. It's whatever.
Yeah, I think, again, as I said when they first announced it, I think I'm glad the feature is added. I do feel as though it is a feature that was needed a long time ago. I know it was on the Xbox One for quite a while. So it is good to know that they have finally, made the ability to actually jump into that feature and actually make that a reality for people that have been asking for it. It's a good thing. One thing I did want to ask, though, and, again, you guys probably will be able to answer this question. Now that they've added that support, now, are there any other things you think that they need to fix in terms of whether it's PSN or another feature that has been long requested that you think PlayStation needs to actually add to the PlayStation 4 right now?
Name changes. Yeah. That's the number one.
But you guys can't name change at all?
No, we can't. It's been a thing since PlayStation 3 where once you chose your PSN name, you weren't allowed to change it. I know Microsoft and Xbox Live, you have to pay to change your name, and I think you can only do it a certain amount of times. But they never figured it out with PlayStation Network, and that's been like a running joke for a long time amongst a variety of different people. So the funny thing is that they keep saying that type of feature is coming, and that they always say that like it's coming, and it never does. So it's like an inside joke amongst people that own a PlayStation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now maybe it's more likely to happen now because they're starting to add. We have the hard drive, external hard drive support, and maybe it's a possibility. Gary, did you have another feature you wanted to mention?
Yeah, games.
Oh, come on now.
Oh, that's
No, I'm playing. I'm just trolling. No, I don't. To be honest, I'm happy with the UI. I mean, I don't use the system that much. It does what I need it to. I can play games and stuff. And the only thing I'll say is, I guess sometimes it's a bit slow, so maybe speed can be improved. I know me and you, Rich, we were speaking to our friend James Kennedy yesterday, and he was saying that his PlayStation 4 is slowed down quite a lot when he tries to do simple things, navigating the UI and stuff like that. So yeah, speed is something they can work on, but that's not a feature. It's just an overall thing, for the network and the operating system. But besides that, I mean, I'm happy with what they've added with this update, or once it's out and stuff. I'm happy with that. Like wallpapers should have been there at launch, like in my opinion. So it's cool that they're adding that now. Sony, they tend to do this. I mean, they did this last generation, like I think it was before midway through, but like they added, trophies and all that other stuff to the system that wasn't there at launch. So they do this sometimes, and I guess Xbox does it a lot too, adding new features and stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, these features that they're adding are pretty cool. So I'm happy.
Yeah. One thing I want to add in real quick, and again, I know the name changes absolutely. Yeah, they really do need to look into that, especially they have already told people that it is coming. So I would hope that is coming at some point. One thing I want to add, this isn't necessarily a feature, but just like you, Gary, and you mentioned the conversation we had with Kennedy yesterday. I think one of the biggest issues that I have with PlayStation and also Xbox One, whenever you purchase a game, whether it's a game that you get on Xbox Live for free, or it's a game that you buy from PSN, the download speed is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I recall buying Batman, I believe it was Arkham Knight, a couple of years ago. I downloaded the game, it was a digital download. I pre-installed it, have excellent internet connection, actually have my system hooked up to the router just to assure that it's going to actually be quick enough. It still took about 3 or 4 days to download that full game. I mean, this is like a 56 or 60 gigabyte game. So, I don't know what they can do to make those, to increase the download speeds, but that is something that I think Microsoft and Sony needs to look into for the future. I'm not saying it's going to be something that happens on the current consoles. It may take, a PlayStation 5 or, Scorpio, which we are going to talk about in a little while, for them to figure this out. But that needs to get better, because I mean, it takes so long. It's just like, man, even if you preload early, and Wi-Fi, obviously it's going to be a little bit slower if you don't have a strong connection. But I'm saying when you actually plug it into the actual router, I would think it would be a lot faster, and it still doesn't really make a difference. So I don't really know how they can fix that, but that's something that I would hope gets improved in the future.
Didn't they? I don't know if this is correct, but didn't they improve the networking on the PS4 Pro? Like, isn't it slightly better?
No, it's the same thing. It's the same thing for the most part.
Okay, I thought maybe the wireless chip or something was a bit better than.
Well, here's a question: Is it better on the Slim, or is it also the same on there?
Same
as well?
thing. Same thing. I mean, as someone who's played on the Slim and again has dabbled a little bit with PS Pro stuff, it all looks and feels the same.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see if that happens. I don't know. Since we're still talking about PlayStation, and I want to get Max involved in this as well, as I mentioned earlier, there is a boost mode feature that is coming to PlayStation 4 Pro. I believe some beta testers already have access to it, but it should be available on every PS4 Pro system soon. I wanted to ask you guys, 2 questions, but I'm going to start with the first one. Do you think that this new feature is going to get people more interested in picking up a Pro if they haven't thought about getting one beforehand? So whoever wants to go first.
Yeah, if the results are really positive and it does a good job, speeding up some of the older games, like making them have higher frame rates and stuff like that, then yeah, I think a lot more people will jump on board, because I mean, if this thing can improve the games they already have, then why not? At that point, like, it's more of an incentive to actually get the system, because right now you've only got like some recent games that are enhanced with the PS4 Pro. So if like the older games are also improved, then hell yes, go get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I don't think it'll like change anyone's mind. Like, I don't think it'll be a tipping point, but I think it'll definitely help in deciding whether to get like the regular PS4 or the PS4 Pro. I think that's definitely a big deciding factor, but I don't think that would be the one reason that would make anyone like want to change or upgrade, as cool as it would be. But yeah.
In all honesty, I don't think so. I think that this is really just only going to cater to people that just haven't bought a PlayStation yet. And the reason why I say that is because some of the games that are more than likely going to benefit from this, or games that that you can play on the Pro right now and such, the actual differences aren't really that much. For perfect example, okay, Final Fantasy 15 or the new Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep 02 that just came out not too long ago. Those games, I think it's like once this feature comes out, or even now, I think at this point, they could run at 60 frames per second on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and they just run at 30 frames per second on the regular PlayStation 4, or at least, above 30 frames per second, give or take, because again, it varies and such. But it's like little things like that I don't think justify enough of a purchase, either to upgrade or, again, to purchase an additional console like that. So unless you didn't buy a PlayStation 4, like if you either had an Xbox One for the most time, or you were a PC gamer, or if you were just playing on the Nintendo console like that, then maybe this will be the model that you're going to get, more than likely, if you're going to buy a PlayStation 4 at this point. And even with the lower price point of the previous PlayStation 4, I mean, obviously, if you just never had that console before, you want to get the best experience. But as far as like it being a real game changer or anything that has a significant impact, I just don't see it right now.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Great explanations from all three of you. So now the second part of my question is this. Now, do you believe that this boost mode feature is something that should be in Xbox Scorpio at launch? Pretty straightforward question. Do you guys think that Microsoft needs to have this in their new console at launch?
It probably already is, to be honest with you. And I think even when we covered the Scorpio not too long ago, I think even when we talked amongst ourselves, the Scorpio itself, from a lot of the stuff that's been coming out, is pretty much the same thing as a PlayStation 4 Pro, or at least in some form or fashion like that. But I would assume so, especially with a lot of this stuff coming out, because again, we haven't seen the Scorpio, and we're going to hear more about it like in an official capacity at this year's E3. So I would say yes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things they're already planning on, because I think even with that that document or whatever that leaked, I think one of the things they were talking about is forwards compatibility. So, you know, taking old games and enhancing them as well. So I think they're already kind of planning on that. And you know, since the PS4 Pro is kind of gonna have it now, I'm pretty sure Microsoft are gonna, you know, really do a good job you know, making a big deal of that when they announce the system. So
yeah, I also agree. I think that it would be in there. I wonder if, because I know their goal is that it's the most powerful system ever. I wonder if it won't even be like a mode. I wonder if it'll just be just like always turned on, like kind of faster parts and everything. I wonder if that'll be something they'll give users the option to or not, because I know that they're just touting how powerful the damn thing is, even though we have no clue how much more powerful it is.
To Gary's point, that white paper that came out talking about that stuff, that was all the way back at last year's E3. So I'm more than sure, to kind of go along with what Max is saying, that'll be a thing. That'll be standard with the console. But we won't know until Microsoft tells us, as far as like in an official capacity. This is all speculation at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And my thought is that, yeah, I agree with what you all said. I do feel as though that is a feature that you can guarantee will be there at launch. Or I mean, my logic is that I think they already know it needs to be there. I mean, Microsoft, we still don't know a lot about the system. We still don't have any idea which games are going to launch on the system. We have a general idea of, yeah, you'll obviously see Crackdown. You'll probably be another Forza that gets announced. As for the other games coming out this year, you know, I don't really know when any of these other games are coming out. You know, Halo Wars will be out in a couple of weeks. Phil Spencer did send a tweet out recently saying that Phantom Dust will be out before E3. But as for Sea of Thieves, State of Decay 2, have no idea when we'll see those games. Could they end up launching on the Scorpio? Sure, but I don't really know what their plans are for any of that stuff. But I feel like, because the games are a mystery at this point, I think they absolutely need to have this feature so that those that they have older games that they want to bring over to the Scorpio, well, they'll know that they'll actually be running at the full capacity, best performance that they could run on the system at the very least, until they actually wait for other games that are actually coming out. But yeah, I mean, as you guys have already said, we'll find out more about Scorpio, and then we'll know exactly what the system has to offer. But my logic is that because of the stuff that it has happened so far this year with Xbox, I'm pretty sure Phil knows that you know, you want to leave a good impression. You want to try to do as many things positive for your brand. So I think that they are going to try to make a very big deal out of Scorpio, going to try to do a lot of good things with it. But we have to see how they do when they actually reveal this system. If they reveal this system and they start talking about 4K TV, you know, I will be pissed. And I will have a lot to say about that on that particular show that we record afterwards. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, boost mode support, yeah, I think that'll already be built into Scorpio. Just looking forward to hearing more about what this system has to offer and why I need to get that when I already have an Xbox One. But we'll see. Any final thoughts on this topic before we wrap up the show, or any other topics you guys may want to say something on?
Does anyone else have one? Because I got one that will kind of change.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna because in the chat we've got somebody called that guy who games, and he said Sony needs to sort out the PS Store. And now I'm thinking about it, they really do, because it is hard to find like simple things like demos and DLC and themes and stuff like that. I always end up just having to search for things, and you shouldn't have to do that. It should be like well categorized and stuff so that you can find things easy. But I wanted to see if you and you, Rich, and JJ agree with that, because I know you guys use the system a lot.
To be honest, again, comparing it to like my experience with like Xbox One and stuff, I think Xbox One is the one that's way more of a mess, especially in the store front, where it's a little bit more of a difficulty to find stuff, or at least to see things that are especially brand new things that come out at the time. With the PlayStation Store, I think that it's significantly improved from the PlayStation 3. I think that the PS Store, the only real problem with the PS Store that, you know, at least in my experience, I find is that sometimes the search for like searching for particular games, the way they have it where you type stuff in, I just think is really stupid. Like they should just have it as like the text, was it the text format where you're actually like writing a message or writing any sort of thing like that, that you're going to send out to somebody. They should have had it like that rather than what they got on the PS Store. I think that the way they designed that was poorly, but everything else to me, I felt like it's pretty clean in comparison to everything else.
Yeah, I agree with that also, because I know the reason they have it like that is so that the game titles can pop up on the side as you're typing stuff in. But there's a better way they can lay that out to where you still have the full keyboard and stuff. Well, so yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I just was going to add that I haven't yet downloaded the PlayStation update, so I don't know. I believe there was a few changes in there in regards to the UI. I'm not 100% sure about that, because I know you can have
not at all.
Oh, there isn't. Okay,
no,
all right.
There isn't, because I have it, and again, it's the same.
Well, do you have the custom wallpaper option that you
yes.
can?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have all that, but it's still essentially primarily the same.
Okay, so I mean, I don't really have too many issues with how it is now. Yeah, there are some stuff that that may be annoying here or there. I haven't had too many issues with that. I know that on the other side of that, the Xbox, there was an update for Xbox One also, and I saw that yesterday when I turned on the system, that the navigation is a little different now. I'm still trying to get used to that navigation. I'm curious to know, Max, have you also encountered this new update?
Yeah, I actually have mine on right now. I didn't notice anything. What's different for you?
It's just that the menu. It's kind of like it is a little bit faster to get you to things a lot quicker, but they have a menu now. When you press the start button, there's like a side menu that pops up, and then that has all the options that let you know the most recent games, all this other type of stuff. I don't know.
I have that.
Okay, so you might not have it yet. You may have it soon. Because I got that the other day, because I've been playing a couple of games on there, and I noticed that now whenever I try to stop a game, it goes right. When I press that start button, it goes right to that feature that feature window on the side again, which tries to navigate if you want to do different things. I don't really know if I like that, the way that they put that together. I mean, I'm trying to get used to it, but I will say that it is faster now than it was before, just a little bit faster than it was before. But I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the Windows UI anyway, so it's, if it's still, the UI is still ugly. If you didn't like it before, well, you definitely won't like it now. But it's all right. It's just a little bit quicker.
Okay. Interesting. Like, I know they're planning an overhaul, but I don't think it's supposed to come into like March or April, unless you're in the Insider program.
Hey, I could be, but in that case, I don't know how the hell they got my information, because I didn't sign up for that program.
Yeah,
so
I have no clue.
I could be in it. I could be in it. You never know.
Interesting.
But no, we'll see. But yeah, as for the PS Store, I haven't really had any. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that can be improved upon, not just with that on Xbox as well, but I haven't really had too many issues with PS Store normally, because, well, I will say this, when there wasn't that many games that were coming out, that many exclusives anyway, obviously, then I would probably have more of an incentive to check out the store and see what all, and then that's when I noticed that there's issues. Now there's a lot of games that are out on the system. So immediately I just jump into a game and I don't really go to that store that much now. But I guess it is, you know, some people have noticed some issues. There probably is some issues, but I haven't really noticed them too much.
Cool. Yeah.
All right. So, wait, was there somebody had another question I saw in the chat just now?
Let me check. Well, you
Oh,
mean
no.
Max? You mean Max talking? They're talking about Crackdown 3 at the moment.
Oh, well, we'll see about that. I mean, listen, I did see, you know, some people were saying, it's, you know, if it's not, I did see a comment in there that said, if it's not at E3, then I'll be very concerned. I think, yeah, that's a valid concern. Because, hey, Microsoft, I think they know, my thing is this. They said that it was a difficult decision to cancel Scalebound. I think they know a lot of fans were disappointed when they made that announcement. So my thought is that they're going to spend all of E3 trying to get back people's interest in not only the system, but just to restore their confidence that they actually have a lineup that is coming. Because for now, like I said, we don't really know what's coming yet. We just know about the games that have already been revealed, but that's all we know. So we'll know more once E3 rolls around, though. So we'll see how that goes.
If they show it.
Uh-oh.
Remember they said they still aren't sure if they're going to show it?
Hey, well, listen, they better show it. They better show it. Yeah, they said, listen, do you know what the backlash would be if they said after last year, they said holiday 2017? Yeah. Now, just imagine if they don't show Scorpio, they'd be like, oh, to hell. Well, maybe it's delayed until 2018. Once again, the people who have already criticized Microsoft about always going back on their word, they're going to say, well, what happened to the holiday 2017 thing that you guys promised? You know, it's Microsoft can't catch a break. So, you know, they need to be very careful with what they do from here on out. But
they do.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. Any final thoughts before we wrap up today's show?
I got more I want to say, but I don't want to hold up the show because the Super Bowl, you know.
No. Let's hear it. No, hey, listen. Most of the people that are watching this show, they know that they're not really worried about the Super Bowl. I saw a couple comments about it, like, yeah, okay, go ahead and say what you were gonna say, Gary.
Yeah, I just want to go back to my initial statement that I made. I remember making it, you know, a few co-ops ago, you know, a long time ago, actually. The third party is running this generation right now, because when you look at last generation, you know, exclusives like The Last of Us stand out, Gears of War, you know, Halo Reach, you know, there's a lot of exclusives you can pull out of the air from last generation. But this generation so far, I just feel like the exclusives haven't been that phenomenal at all, like on both sides, you know, on all three sides, I guess, if you will. But yeah, I feel like both companies are kind of struggling to get that one mega exclusive right now. And I always get on Sony's case, I know that, but at the moment things aren't looking great for Microsoft in terms of exclusives as well.
Hold on a second. Now I have to stop you right there. So you mean to tell me that Uncharted 4 was not a good game and Ratchet and Clank was not a good game? That's what you're saying.
They aren't memorable. Like they're not generation defining.
I will be very interested to see what people have to say about that particular comment, because I know a lot of people loved Uncharted 4. They thought that was one of the better games so far this generation in terms of exclusives. So
from a technical standpoint, yeah, but other than that, no.
Oh, well, hey, for those of you that heard that comment, I'll be very, very, I'm begging you to comment and tell me what you think about what he just said, because that's the statement that I mean, I know a lot of people love that game, so we'll see. I mean, I will say this, you know, I think that Gears of War 4 was a pretty good game. I thought it was a pretty great game, actually. I would say it was better than Halo 5. I said that multiple times on multiple co-ops. So, yeah, but obviously Microsoft could do a lot better. I think with Sony, they have a lot of great games that are coming. Gravity Rush 2 was awesome. Yakuza 0 is a game that I wish I could be playing now, but I still haven't had a chance to play it because I'm trying to finish Gravity Rush 2. Neo was out next week. Horizon Zero Dawn is out later this month. And this is only just the first 2 months of 2017. So I think that statement will change completely before this year is over. Because Sony has a lot of great games that are coming. So we can't really, I don't think we can criticize them anymore about exclusives for a while. That's just my opinion.
I mean, I'm not saying like all of their exclusives are bad. I'm just saying that there hasn't been any definitive like exclusives that have kind of pushed the barrier forward this generation. That's my point. I feel like the third parties are really doing that.
So you know what? Let me ask this last question then, because you asked that question. So to play along that fact, now you said that there hasn't been that many exclusives. Which games would you say from this generation that are third-party titles have been standout so far?
Destiny is my go-to because that did a lot of things different that we haven't seen previously in console gaming. In terms of an FPS shooter. So
I think Destiny also, it did do a lot of things different. It also proves that Bungie does not know how to tell a story. So was interesting. But no. Are there any other picks that you guys would have that you would say so far this generation that you think has been memorable experiences?
Well, someone in the chat brought up Bloodborne, which I think is a great example. Bloodborne was pretty awesome, and it wasn't the most unique, like compared to Dark Souls, but like it was pretty cool. It was a great take on that like formula. Let's see, Inside, I guess, was pretty standard. I still haven't played the game myself, but everything I've been hearing is that game is like one of the #1 standouts.
I don't know. I think it's a little bit hard to tell right now. I mean, some people, again, depending on who you ask, they would go to a variety of different games or different franchises that had those crazy memorable experiences. A lot of people would say for this generation, something like Overwatch would be considered one, especially with like how that was. But I think that has to do more with the design and other aspects outside of the game itself. I mean, you could argue for things like Final Fantasy 15. You could argue for things like Uncharted, Doom. The list goes on. But I don't think we've really found that one or select group of games that have really pushed us into this generation or showed us the leaps and bounds in this generation. I still think that we're still in the mindset of the last console generation. We just have newer toys to play with like that. I think the one exception, and even then it's arguable, is The Last of Us. But The Last of Us was really a generation pusher last generation. It was at the very tail end of the PS3. That was the swan song of that console. And we just happened to carry it over into the PlayStation 4. So even then, that's still debatable like that. But I don't think we've found it yet. We'll eventually will. And I would disagree. Like, I wouldn't even say Bloodborne or Dark Souls and games like that are really ones that push us, forward into this console generation, even though they're phenomenal experiences in their own right. They're designed well in a variety of different aspects. But yeah, I still think we have a long ways to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like we haven't had a Mass Effect this generation, or an Uncharted 2, or a Last of Us. Any of those types of games that leave a lasting impression. BioShock. We haven't had anything like that this generation that kind of stamps the generation.
I think part of that is just because the original Xbox and like the PS1 and I guess technically PS2, like they created really cool franchises, but then when we jumped to the PS3 and the Xbox 360, it was the biggest leap in like two consoles we had seen in a while. And the Xbox 360 and PS3 like brought forth all of these new franchises because of the new tech. Like, for example, Assassin's Creed or like Gears of War, like we were saying. And this generation has just been continuing those franchises that were built up last gen. And since this gen was just kind of a smaller leap, it was mostly just like better of what we've seen. They're just continuing that. And we aren't, because there was no massive new leap in tech, there isn't a massive new leap in like types of games because either lack of ideas or everything's safer now. There are tons of things like that. Like there's VR, I guess, but
VR has the potential to.
Yeah.
VR is like that one thing where it's a new way to play games. Like I've always said, every time that we talk about VR on this show or any of our other shows, that has the potential to change the landscape of gaming as we understand the application of playing video games, because it's not just sitting there with a controller and controlling stuff, that's on screen like that, or being immersed in what's already appearing on screen. You're putting yourself in there and you have to look at things through a different perspective, whether it's first person where you're immersed in the environment, like something like Robinson the Journey on PlayStation VR, or something like Res Infinite, or things like that. Again, you could name any other VR game that's out there now. But what really is going to really be the testing ground for that technology is not only gaming, but also how we apply that technology. How do we think outside the box, and how we can make the player, or how someone can make a player or consumer have a particular type of experience that you cannot do in not only previous console generations, but in previous games that have come before it. And I don't think we've had that yet. I don't think we're going to get that for quite some time.
Yep.
Hey, this that was a great little topic to add in there, Gary, because that's going to make me think about a couple of things. I definitely would like to revisit this topic at the end of the year to see if anything happens this year. I mean, there's a lot of great games coming out this year. I mean, I don't know if you will say genre-defining games, generation-defining games, rather. I mean, I don't know yet, but the potential is high for it to be something that's going to be a success and that's going to be memorable, something that you'll be like, oh yeah, that was an awesome franchise. I'm glad they introduced that. But yeah, I definitely want to revisit that topic again at the end of this year and see whether or not there was something that was stand out.
Yeah. As for like the generation stamp, the Trigger Man in the chat brought up maybe The Witcher 3. And while I don't think that's like
I don't agree with that.
I don't think it's generation pushing, but I think that's one of the best examples we have of it right now, which isn't saying much because we don't have anything truly generation pushing. But I think that'd be one of the best candidates we have.
No, I wouldn't agree with that at all, because not only a lot of the stuff that was being done or that has been done in The Witcher 3 is still technically stuff that was done with the last few games, The Witcher 2 and the previous console generations, but we also have other games that have attempted similar stuff like that, maybe not on the grand scale as The Witcher 3 as far as like the attention to detail and such, but still in similar practice. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5 comes to mind, Fallout 4 comes to mind. There's other games that have that same type of approach. Again, The Witcher 3, all it really did was build an immense world that is densely populated with a lot of stuff to do. You could argue that it lacks a little bit of focus because there's so much things that could be a distraction with it like that, but really essentially at its core it's still just an open world game. You could say the same thing about No Man's Sky, and that was the same problem with No Man's Sky, is that it's an immense wide area of to explore and get immersed in, but again there's stuff that's lacking in substance, and at the end of the day it's still the same type of thing like most other first person survival games that have been out on the market already like that. So even then I don't think you could really consider The Witcher 3 like in that same type of light. That doesn't take anything away from the game, don't get me wrong. The Witcher 3 is still phenomenal in its own right. It's still a great game that people should play at some point. But as far as like the generation stamp or the game that's pushing this generation forward, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's a fair statement to make.
Well, I mean, it is pushing the generation forward in the sense that it's the one uncompletable game this generation, because like you literally just can't complete that game. It's got so much content. But yeah, I mean, the only thing I'm going to disagree with what JJ said, because I agree for the most part, like I don't think it's the one, like I don't see The Witcher 3 as the one standout game of this generation or anything like that. But the one thing I have to disagree with is I do think it was a big step up from The Witcher 2, because The Witcher 2 was very restricted.
Absolutely.
In some things.
Agree with that 100%. I agree with that 100% because I played The Witcher 2. And yeah, 3 is a lot more open world. It's a great game. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we will.
I think Max was going to say something there.
I'm trying to like kind of still collect my thoughts, because like JJ is right in that a lot of it isn't like generation pushing, but I feel like out of everything we've seen this gen, it's still one of the games that like it still was one of the only open world games to accomplish what it attempted, whereas all those other games like Metal Gear Solid 5 and everything, they still had like so many like glaring issues when it came to like the open world is filled with boring stuff. I think that that's an achievement in itself because it did utilize what we got these new consoles for. Like The Witcher 3 is not possible on a previous gen console. But it's still like kind of sad that that is our, I don't know if sad's the right word, but it sucks that it's the only example or one of the only examples we have that we don't have anything better than that we have to even question this right now. You know, like last gen, I think right away there were some games that we just knew were like crazy, like The Last of Us, that would just stand out, whereas this we just don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Good points all around.
Yeah, good points all around. Definitely a topic we probably should explore in more detail when we have more time. So maybe we consider this as another side conversation to have on a future show, perhaps. I think we can run down a list of all of the games that came out so far this generation and go back and then really dissect ones we think were standout titles. But what you said about Destiny, I respect that particular comment. I cannot give Bungie a pass for the way they put together the storytelling in that game. You know, the Watcher is over here. Yes. The Queen is over there. Yes. That's their names. Come on now, son. They could have did a little bit better with that, some of that stuff. But it's all good. You know, still, it was a fun game to play because I played it for a long time. The grinding was there, but hopefully Destiny 2 will be better. We'll see. But any final thoughts before we wrap up this time? Definitely, you know, any final thoughts?
I'll say one last thing, you know, again, for trying not to continue and prolong the discussion and stuff. I wasn't saying that because of the accomplishments of Witcher 3 and stuff, that it's not like a great game. Because I was looking in the chat and some people were saying like, well, I'm surprised he compared it to Fallout 4 like that. And like, obviously there's heavy differences between a game like The Witcher 3 or Fallout 4 and Metal Gear Solid 5 and stuff. What I'm talking about is essentially the way that they approach games and the way that they present stuff to the player, not the presentation of the games, not the amount of detail that's in them and the sheen of things, not how good that they look. I'm talking more about, and the way I'm coming at it as far as like, you know, genre defining games or generation defining games is like, how do these games make us think differently about the way we play games? And how do we actually go about playing the games in a different fashion than what we've had for the last like 20, 30 plus years like that? Because when you really look at it at the core, again, when you take away everything about presentation, about the amount of side quests and the amount of characters that you have in a game like The Witcher 3 and stuff, it is still an open world RPG at its core, which has been around for a while now at this point for the last couple console generations. This is why I compare it to like The Witcher 2. This is the reason why I compare it to Fallout 4 like that. But again, I think you're right that it's such a nuanced and complicated topic, and there's so many facets to it that you can't just like condense this into one discussion.
Yep. Yeah, it's certainly interesting.
Absolutely agreed. So, hey, final thoughts for you, Max or Gary, on this topic? Or you good?
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. So this concludes this week's episode of the Co-op Podcast. We thank you all for your continued support, for everybody who left comments in the chat. So any final shout outs that you guys would like to give? And as well, you know, Gary, definitely you can let people know who won our contest. But Max and JJ, any shout outs first?
As usual, thanks everyone for joining us in the chat. That's one of my favorite things about the show every week is talking to you guys in the chat and hearing your inputs. And then just, yeah, thanks for tuning in overall. And I will see you all next week.
Just again, shout out to everybody that's in the chat. Shout out to everybody that watches this on the YouTube channel or up on the website. Shout out to everybody that goes to our editorials, goes to the reviews, the articles that we post up, the videos, leaves comments, gets that interaction going, sends us feedback, sends us support. All the Patreon subscribers, thank you. We really thank you for your support and your time and your effort, and you know your kind of, you know, your positivity by keeping us in the game. You know, constantly like producing good content for all of you guys. We really appreciate it. We got a lot of good stuff coming very soon. Again, we got new reviews coming this week. We got some other big reviews that are happening later on in the month into the next month. That's going to be fun. That's going to be interesting. You guys have a lot to look forward to. So thank you a tons.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And Gary, now let everybody know, you give your shout outs, but also let everybody know who is the winner of our giveaway for Neo.
Yep. As always, you know, special shout to all of our Patreon supporters. That's M. Collins, Sean Gority, Michael Hatcher, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Lelowin Leslie, Nicholas Alvarez, and Nick Biazzo. Some new people there. Shouts to them. And yeah, as you know, we had a giveaway running for Neo, and it was open to everybody. And obviously, you know, the people who support us on Patreon, they get extra entries into this contest, which, you know, makes them more likely to win, if you will. And our winner for this giveaway is Mr. Sean Gority. So thank you very much for your support, and congratulations for winning Neo.
Absolutely. And just to piggyback off of that, yeah, so I also want to give congratulations to Gority. Just wanted to make a mention that there is going to be another giveaway coming up this week for Hitman, you know, the newly released disc version of Hitman Season 1. But we are going to have other giveaways in the future. So, you know, you definitely, if you are a Patreon subscriber, you definitely want to stay subscribed, because there's going to be some other giveaways coming to that sooner rather than later. But we do have a couple more things coming. We just wanted to once again thank you all for your continued support. Stay tuned for more great content coming soon. And we will talk to you all next week.